like the look of real fieldstone but think it's more than a weekend project? Well, think again, because today we'll show you an easy way to set fieldstone. No, it's not fake, it's the real deal. Natural stone cut to a thin veneer, so it's lighter to work with and simple to set. Plus, we'll top off the project with a traditional capstone. It's all happening straight away on Weekend Handyman. Welcome to Weekend Handyman. I'm Paul Ryan. The house we're in front of today has undergone some major renovations over the last several years. Now, we're told the original structure was a barn that was renovated to look more like a salt box style house. Most recently, the top was cut off and a second story was added, along with this really nice front porch and a stucco exterior. Now, the homeowner contracted out a lot of the major projects, but now he's starting to bite off some of the smaller ones himself. And we are here to tackle the porch columns, and we're going to cover the bases with a real fieldstone veneer. When you're planning to do stonework, there's plenty of choices out there. It all depends on the look you're after. Cultured stone, also known as man-made stone, has become really popular with do-it-yourselfers because it's thinner, lighter, and easier to work with, and many of the products look very realistic. Of course, there's no replacing real stone, but it is heavier and more labor-intensive to set, so it can scare off the average handyman. But if you've got your heart set on real stone, there is an easier option, and it's right here. It's real fieldstone veneer. Now, this comes from Hallquist stone, and this stone is quarried in Wisconsin. As you can see, we've got corner pieces, we've got flat pieces, and it's real stone that's cut at a thin profile. Now, this is great if you've got weight or space constraints, and it's easier for the do-it-yourselfer because the side you set is flat. So, what's so difficult about working with full-size stone? Take a look. Here, professional masons are creating a stone stairway, but because of the weight of the natural stone, footings at or below ground level are required. Plus, with full stone, there's a void between the stone and the vertical surface, so a wicking system is needed to ensure moisture won't build up behind the stone. And because of the weight, they can only set in lifts of about 2 to 3 feet at a time. Fine for steps, but not columns. Now, the installation of our stone veneer doesn't need footings. We just need to wrap the bases in tar paper, and then we'll take this expanded metal lath, put that on, and we'll be ready for the mortar and the stone. Helping us out today is our friend and contractor, Beth, so hopefully we can get this project done in 2 days. And now, let's talk about the difficulty of this project.
Well, Paul, working with stone can be tricky, but I don't think this one's going to be too bad.
I agree. I think we should rate this one a 3 on our Weekend Handyman difficulty scale.
Sounds fair.
All right. There is some prep work with the project. We measured the green-treated plywood bases and ordered the stone about 2 weeks ago. The stone and mortar was delivered yesterday by a boom truck. It came on pallets that weighed about 2,500 pounds each. The stones came wrapped separately, corners in one box, centers in the other. The veneer stone cost more than regular fieldstone, but it's worth it in the savings of time and aggravation. We also ordered 5-inch Indiana limestone to use as a capstone to finish off the column bases. Yeah, sometimes it seems like getting all the tools and materials together is the hardest part of the job.
I know it.
Besides basic tools and supplies, you'll need grade B tar paper to prepare the surface, hammer stapler, expanded metal lath, type S premixed mortar, a 4x12 rectangular finishing trowel, an 11 or 12-inch London-style mason's trowel, a 1/2-inch tuck pointing trowel, grout bag, tooling iron, mason's hammer, and a 14-inch cutoff saw with a segmented diamond blade to cut the stones when needed. Now, we can't attach the stone right to the plywood because this expands and contracts with the changes in temperature. So we'll take this 2-ply tar paper and attach it to the plywood. That'll act as a water vapor barrier so the water can't get in and rot the plywood. Now, we're going to want to start from the bottom and lap over just like a shingle so the water drains off. Now, these columns are fiberglass and the base is fiberglass as well, so we're just going to move this out of the way. We'll shim it up here so we've got plenty of area to work. We're using 2-ply tar paper secured with a hammer stapler. Don't go overboard on the stapling because the metal lath will hold it in place. It's important to pull the corners tight and use a utility knife to cut the tar paper.
When applying your tar paper, it's important to wrap over the horizontal surfaces on top of the cap to prevent any moisture from seeping into the framing.
Well, our columns are wrapped with tar paper, and now it's time to put on the expanded metal lath. Why lath? Well, the stones need something to adhere to, so we're going to be putting some mortar on. Mortar doesn't stick to tar paper, but it does stick to the lath. Now, there's a right way and a wrong way to put this on, so I want to show you that. On the back side, you'll see these little ridges, these little dimples. This will go against the tar paper, and it holds this lath out about 1/8 of an inch, and it gives you more surface area for that mortar to collect in. Also, on the front side, you want to make sure that you've got this the right side up. Draw your hands down, and it should be smooth. And one final thing, this stuff is really sharp, so always wear gloves. You want to nail the metal lath through the plywood into the studs and nail between the mesh so it's tight against the surface. You can't put too many nails in here. Here we're overlapping our lath about 4 inches on the horizontal seam.
You never want your lath edges to meet. Always overlap your next stud. This prevents the mortar from cracking down the seam.
Well, it looks like we're prepped and ready to move on.
Yep, I think we're all wrapped up.
That's so bad. Now, if you've missed any steps along the way, just head to our website. It's DIYnetwork.com. Let me wrap the top here.
We're all wrapped up.
When Weekend Handyman returns, we'll put the scratch coat of mortar on the metal lath. Get started setting the field stone, work on our grouting technique, and finish the job off. That and much more just ahead. We are back at about halfway through day one of our Weekend Handyman project, covering our plywood column bases with some natural field stone veneer. Getting the stone ordered and delivered was the first order of business. Once we started working, it went pretty well. We covered all of our bases with tar paper, and over that, a layer of expanded metal lath. Well, we're about set to start laying in our scratch coat, and Beth is busy mixing it up over here.
I put about 1 gallon of water in per bag, Paul.
Yeah, and it should take 1 gallon or 1.5 gallons. So always start with less water. You can always add more, but you can't take the water out. Now, this is a type S mortar. It's made for above grade masonry, and this is also a premix mortar, so it should make our job a lot easier.
On a job this size, it's a good idea to use premix mortar. Your sand and mortar are mixed together. You just add water. It's more convenient and more consistent with each batch you make.
When the mortar is the consistency of a frosting, use a rectangular finishing trowel and a London-style mason's trowel to apply it generously and thoroughly over the lath. Start on the inside and pull in from the corners.
After applying your scratch coat, you'll want to rough the surface up with the whisk broom. This will allow a better bond for your stone.
Now, while the scratch coat is drying, this is a great opportunity to lay out the stones for the columns. The great thing about this part of the project, it's like putting together a puzzle and you get to pick the pieces. Now, the thing you want to keep in mind is that you don't want to have all the same size corner pieces and the same color corner pieces. You can vary them a little bit. Go with a big one and a little one. Same thing with the center pieces. Don't go with all the one size center pieces. Remember, nature is random, so keep your design random as well and have some fun. Now, you want to let the scratch coat dry for as long as possible, at least a couple of hours so you get good adhesion. Now, for installing the stones, a couple of rules. You don't want to start right in the center of the column because there's nothing to support the stones. So you can start on the ground, or what we're going to do, on the deck. The other thing we're doing, we're just using this 1x because you don't want to put the stone right on the deck as it expands and contracts. You want a little room for that, so that's why we're using that 1x. Well, we're going to start with the corner piece, and we'll go from there. You want to back butter the stone with a thin coat of mortar. Then put a lip around the edge, forming a cup. Set it in place and give it a little wiggle and hold it for about 5 to 10 seconds to make sure you have good adhesion. We'll prepare the stone for the opposite corner in the same way. Now comes the trick, fitting the center stones in place. Now here's a tip for you when you're putting your cornerstones in on the bases. You want to make sure that you've got a good flat surface on those cornerstones. That'll give you a good base of support. You can see here, we've got a stone that's got these two edges that stick straight up. Not a good base of support. You know what? Flip it upside down. There's a good base of support. You can make these stones work.
Before putting your mortar on your mud board, sprinkle some water on it. This will keep the board from sucking the moisture out of your mortar.
Now it's a good idea to grout the seams as you go for a couple of different reasons. This grout will add a little extra support for the stones, and also if we grouted the entire column at once, we still have to come back and finish these seams. Well, everything would dry at once and we wouldn't have a lot of time to finish those seams. Now for the grout, I've just got a grout bag, sort of like icing a cake. Just squeeze and guide as you go and fill in the seams. Well, we're going to stay at it for as long as we can today because we've got a lot of work ahead of us. And then tomorrow, we'll be ready for the big finish. When we come back, if the stone doesn't fit, we'll show you how to make it work with a hammer and saw. Once the column bases are complete, we'll show the tricks to setting the capstone. That and more when Weekend Handyman returns. Hi, I'm Paul Ryan, and we are just starting day 2 of our Weekend Handyman project, covering these porch columns with a natural fieldstone veneer. Now, so far we have 10 hours, a full day into this job, which we rate a 3 on our Weekend Handyman difficulty scale. Our first step was to prepare the bases of the columns with tar paper. Over that, we put our expanded metal lath, then a scratch coat of mortar. Finally, we were able to set the fieldstone. There you go. Well, Beth and I have been working pretty hard laying the stones in, making some pretty good progress. And you know, once in a while you're going to come across a space where a stone won't fit, so you're going to have to do some cutting. So what we recommend is just take the stone, put it into place. We're just going to do some carving with a pencil. And then you just want to take a mason's hammer or a brick hammer and make your chips. Now, you don't want to hit from the rounded side. You want to hit from the flat side so you've got a smoother surface to chip. Oh, well, this is why you should always order extra. You might break rocks. I'll mark this one. Well, that one fits. Thanks, Beth. Now here's a situation over here we're going to have to deal with. We're going to be putting some capstones on the top of these columns, so we want to make sure that we've got a level surface all the way around. Now once in a while you're going to have a stone that extends above the top of the column. We have to cut this. Now you don't want to hammer cut these corner pieces because typically what will happen, it'll split right down the center. So we're going to use a saw for those cuts. We're using a 14-inch cutoff saw with a segmented diamond blade. The blade spins at high RPM, so you'll want to keep the stone on the front of the bed closest to your body.
You can actually melt stone while you're cutting it. That's why you use a segmented blade. A segmented blade will keep the cutting edge cooler.
Here's another tip. If the stone is too heavy, you can use a small rock as a shim to hold the stone in place so it doesn't slip. When the mortar between the joints crumbles off, it's ready to be tooled with a tuck pointer. Just scrape down the excess mortar in the joint to expose the edges of the stone, making sure that the depth of the joint flows smoothly.
After you've spent the time to lay the stone and grout your joints, be sure to take a little extra time in striking. Striking is what gives your project that finished professional look.
Well, these columns look great.
They look like full stones, Paul.
Yep, no one will ever know they're a veneer.
No.
Now, we can't quite finish cleaning up yet. We still have to put the tops on, and we'll do that when we come back. Now, if you missed any steps along the way, just head to our website. It's DIYnetwork.com. When we come back, it's time for the capstone. We'll show you how to cut the limestone to size and get it in place. It's all just ahead when Weekend Handyman returns. Welcome back to Weekend Handyman, where we are putting the finishing touches on our natural fieldstone porch columns. Now, by finishing touches, I mean these capstones. Now, this is Indiana limestone, probably the most common stone for this type of work. As a matter of fact, if you ordered any other type of stone besides this, it'd probably be a special order. It'd cost you a lot of money. Also, we ordered buff. You can get different colors, but buff, the color we chose, goes with just about anything. Now, you can order this in any type of lineal footage you want. We chose 5-inch wide, and we got pieces that are about 2 to 3 feet long, but unfortunately, they don't come with these angles cut, so that's what we've got to do now. We'll mark our 45-degree angle and then measure down 21.5 inches. That's the length of the base. Mark it, and then make another 45-degree angle. Again, we'll use our cutoff saw to cut the limestone. In order to set the capstone, we need to put a generous bed of mortar on the top of the column base. You'll probably want some help setting the capstone because it takes more than 2 hands. Allow a slight cant, about 3/8 of an inch, so that the water will run off of it, and make sure that it's level. We'll leave a 3/8 inch gap between the corners of each side, and we'll fill those with grout when we finish.
That's good. Nice.
When grouting the capstone joints, start filling from the bottom and work your way to the top. If you started filling from the top, the grout would just fall right through. We also need to fill in the voids between the limestone and the column. We don't want any water collecting in here.
The tooling iron not only gives you a nice finished joint, but it also draws the lime to the top, which creates a stronger bond.
Now, here's a tip for you. If you get a piece of stone from the factory that's got a finished edge, but you don't want that, you want a rough edge like this, you can use a technique called rock facing. Here's how it works. It's pretty simple. First thing you want to do is just make a line about 5/8 of an inch away from the edge. Take a metal chisel, and then you just want to strike the edge of that stone. A little bit of an angle. And then just flip your stone over. Make a mark on the other side, again about 5/8 of an inch, and repeat the process. Your side?
Yep.
Well, Beth, we got a lot of work done this weekend.
You can say that again.
We got a lot of work done this weekend. When the weekend started, we had a great-looking house with one too many unfinished projects. But with the help of a natural fieldstone veneer, we were able to give the porch columns the style they were waiting for. It's hard to believe we could create this timeless look in just a couple of long days. The best part is, they're real stones filled with character, and no two are alike. And the kicker? We did it ourselves, and no one will ever guess that these aren't full-size stones. They look like they've been here forever. Well, hopefully by watching today, you're inspired to try your own stone project. I'm Paul Ryan. Thanks for watching Weekend Handyman. We'll see you next time.